Mike's Daily Podcast.
Hey, getting up at dark 30 is so easy. I'm getting so used to it. Welcome to FM episode
Mike's Daily Podcast
2103 2103. I'm Mike Matthews. I'm as happy as I can be because it's Thursday. And for some of you, it's like a Friday because you go Friday, I'm getting out of here. But some of you have to work Friday and you have to work all weekend. And I hear you because that's kind of me too. So
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I'm going to plug the website right at the beginning of the show, MikesDailyPodcast.com. So many wonderful podcast pictures there. I've collected
Daily
over 2,103 podcast pictures.
Yeah!
There's been one for each show over the years. So yes, if you would like to check one out, please do so at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Last show we had a character stop by named Who's It? Who's It stopped by. We talked about a song that Michael Jackson did called Who Is It or something. And yeah, who cares? Oh, the king of pop, Michael Jackson. I watched a very interesting thing about him doing Captain EO in Disneyland back when he was super popular. They did a movie with George Lucas because Disney had this thing with George Lucas before Disney actually bought George Lucas. They did Star Tours at Disneyland, and then they had him do this show called Terror Extraterrestrial, something like that in Florida. I actually went on that ride with my mom, and it freaked you out. Whatever you've heard about it, there's all kinds of stuff on YouTube about it. It no longer exists. It had Jeffrey Jones, the actor, who was caught with bad, lascivious things that were bad with the internet and stuff. Later, he was the principal from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I actually saw him one day. I was getting off an escalator at the...
And here's today's podcast picture.
I think it's called the Grove. It's right next to... Actually, you see celebrities all over the Grove, which is right next to the Farmers Market in Los Angeles over by CBS Studios, where they filmed The Price is Right, Drew Carey. Never seen Drew Carey, but I saw him as I was getting off of an escalator. He was sitting in a cafe. And it's funny because celebrities know when you see them. They go, uh-oh. Like I saw Nia Vardalos. Is that her name from My Big Fat Greek Wedding? That's basically the only thing she's ever done. I saw her at an outdoor cafe. Oh, Basil wasn't there, though. No, he didn't get to see Nia Vardalos. But I may have watched that movie in front of him before. And he went, oh, this is lousy, sentimental, awful stuff. Good old Basil. I was thinking about last night about how he used to do that thing that dogs do, and cats do too, when they get on their bed and they do that spinning around thing. And then they finally lay down and they put their tail in front of their face. But Basil didn't have a tail because he was a boxer, and the people before us snipped his tail. And, after he passed away, I did the thing where I did the super research on him. And I know that the guy I sometimes produce the show for, Rob Black, he lost his dog recently, about a year or two ago. And he went through this whole thing where he went through every single picture he had of the dog, just remembering everything. And I did the same thing. And there was all these old pictures of Basil when he used to spin around. And so he would not be comfortable, so he'd get up and spin around some more. Well, towards the end of his life, he couldn't do that anymore. The degenerative myelopathy wouldn't let him use his legs, and he couldn't do that curl around thing. And I thought about that last night and felt bad, I hate these little things that make them feel like a dog they couldn't do anymore. Barking. He was able to, he tried to bark, and a little bit of something came out. And occasionally he could even get a bit of a howl out. But that bark that we just heard him do, that was in his heyday. It was tough to see. It's always tough to see something degenerating, something not quite the way it used to be, fading away. But that is how things go in this life, unfortunately, and I hope he's in heaven, able to spin around on his bed, his cloud up in heaven, and sleep with his... Maybe he's got a whole tail this time covering his face. But I was looking at an old... the very first email where I found out about Basil. My ex-wife, she was the one that really wanted a dog, and she was the one who got the ad off of Craigslist. Actually, her father did. Sent her a, hey, there's this dog, it's a brindle boxer, you might be interested. And there were these people all the way out in Fresno that wanted to rehome this dog. Basil had belonged to a family. The family had gotten him from a breeder, but then they didn't want him anymore because they had another dog, and apparently Basil and this other dog used to tear up the house. But they said, you know what, this Basil's a troublemaker, and they gave him back to the breeder. And then we basically adopted Basil from that. And it was basically he was unwanted, and then we wanted him. And, he never tore up the house, never did it. Only the biggest thing he ever did was dig a hole in the backyard. Such a great dog. Yes, I'm eulogizing Basil once again, but he was just a great dog, and I hope he's happy wherever his spirit is. So, back to the Grove and seeing Jeffrey Jones, and I've once also saw at the Grove, or actually next to it, the Farmer's Market, which has been there forever. The lead singer of Def Leppard walked by me as I was eating lunch, and he had on a shirt that said, on the arm, had like a long sleeve shirt, and on the arm it said Led Zeppelin, which is interesting because Def Leppard, Led Zeppelin, very similar names, both rock groups. You probably have your favorite of the two, rocking out with them. So, all that to say that George Lucas, Captain EO, Michael Jackson, as we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Mont today, the last place on earth. Cafe anyway. Yes, George Lucas had a big thing to do with Disney. Still does. Of course, now there's a huge chunk of Disneyland that has to do with Star Wars. So, but he did Captain EO. And there's a really funny video about how that movie was made, Captain EO. It was it 10 minutes? It was 3D. Michael Jackson singing. He basically had control of the entire script. It makes no sense. There's a bunch of dancing going on. It's just a big sci-fi musical that lasts about 10 minutes. Oh, Angelica Houston's in it. She's the villain. And Michael Jackson at the end makes everything beautiful. And he sings, "You're just another part of me," dun, dun, which was a single off of the Bad album. And it was the only single off of the Bad album that did not go to number one. Wait, did Smooth Criminal go to number one? I think it did. But let's see, you had I Just Can't Stop Loving You went to number one. Bad, the title track, went to number one. The Way You Make Me Feel went to number one. Dirty Diana went to number one. And I'm missing one. For some reason, there's one I'm missing. Not the Free Willy song. That was a later album. But, so, all that to say, Cafe anyway, the podcast picture is from Pleasanton. And I just wanted to post this picture because Pleasanton's doing a very smart thing to fight the coronavirus. They have all these restaurants that do not have outdoor seating, or if they do, it's very limited and would not adhere to the social distancing rule. So they have they've taken over the whole main street, and they've put chairs out into the middle of the street. You can see that picture at MikesDailyPodcast.com. I love that. It was a beautiful day on Saturday when I took this walk and saw that. Man, there were so many things I wanted to cover. Some loose ends. I'll get to some of the stuff. Oh, one of the things is the Holiday House in Hayward, in South Hayward. It burned. It didn't, I guess it pretty much burned to the ground, although it's still, parts of it are standing. There's a huge, bulldozer type thing trying to destroy it, bring it down completely, but they're doing it really slow, which makes sense with the Holiday House. The Holiday House was a bowling alley in Hayward, there on Mission Boulevard, and I pass by it when I head to work in Fremont. And it's just been an eyesore forever. The only thing... I hope they leave the sign up that says Holiday House, because it's kind of this goofy 1970s looking sign. And it's right next to a golf course. I never got to go bowling there. It was closed way before I got to the Bay Area. And it's just been sitting there for years. And there's this marquee that says, check us out online at Dark Horse, blah, 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 something. It caught on fire. Last week, I think, is when I saw it. I saw fire trucks out in front of it. And as you drive past, you see walls are gone. It looks like they started tearing it down with deconstruction tools, vehicles. It just makes you think about things that decay and fall apart. And hopefully that gets replaced with something nice. I think they should tear it out, tear the whole thing out, and put a park there. It's already next to a golf course. They could continue, and it's just down the street from the Garin Trail, beautiful park, owned by East Bay Regional Park District. They could just continue the pastoral theme in the East Bay. So I wanted to get to that, and I guess there's some other stuff I can get to next show. But yeah, there are a bunch of restaurants that are doing the same thing, like Pleasanton is allowing them to do, where they are able to extend out into the street. Hayward, South Hayward is doing the same thing. And then I guess I was going to talk about how everyone has their own cross to bear. But that's kind of a depressing subject. I don't think I'll go into that. But it's true. We've all got hard stuff to deal with, right? And I hope you're dealing with it as best you can. And there's no shame in asking for help. There's no shame for reaching out, getting a second opinion, getting several bits of advice. And you know what? I don't see a problem with reaching out to churches, pastors, priests, ministers, you know. Do a little of that, do some of the professional, the therapy, psychologists. Do your research online. There is help out there, is all I'm saying, in this tough world in which we live. And that's pretty much all I had to say. Hey, let's outside a cafe anyway. Hey, look who's here.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, the chef supervisor. I'm going to go eat outside at a cafe outside.
We're at a cafe outside right now. Cafe anyway.
I know, Mike Matthews. And everyone should go inside and buy a new face mask.
You know, people should just give away face masks. We all need them, so.
Mike Matthews, I gotta make a profit.
Look who else is here.
Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman.
And this is John Deere, the engineer. Mike, you haven't done a video yet for YouTube. Oh my, I forgot to do that on today's show. Hey, by the way, you can find this show on radio.com. I have listened to it a couple of times on radio.com, you know, just to see what the heck I was saying. To see if it made any sense. And, well, it works. You just have to look up Mike Matthews and don't listen to the guy who has the health show and he's all buff. Here, I gotta get the mic of the video. Here we go. Okay. This is my video for the episode entitled Grove. We'll call this Grove. Why not? It's a wonderful street in Podcastro Valley. I'm so East Bay with my A's shirt on today, with these various players of all types from the year 2002. There you go, a little bit of sports. Maybe if this is a sports podcast, more people will listen to it. And people that enjoy bald, shiny-headed guys, they'll love this too. Hey! It's great. That's what I came up with today for my show. I'm going to upload that. You can see that at Mike's Daily Podcast. It's at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Also on YouTube. YouTube.com/Mike's Daily Podcast. And tell me what you think about any of the topics we covered today. 336mm daily, 3 plus 3 equals 6mm is a Mike Matthews Daily, as in what this podcast will continue to try to be. Have an awesome day.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!